Jinzo gibe sonam gi ndola penjire sangi ndobar sangi chedan sogi chonam la chancho bardo dani kyabsun dagi jinzo gibe sonam gi ndola penjire sangi ndobar sho semjen tamje dewa Devi gyudan dembara gyurje simjen dam lunga dan lunga ye gyudan dawara gyurje damje lunga mebe dewa damin dawa damje nyirin chaga nidan da tanyamla nebara gyurje simjen damje dewa Devi gyudan dembara gyurje simjen damje dunga ye gyudan dawa gyur simjen damje dunga mebe dewa damin dawa gyur simjen damje nyirin chadan nidan da tanyamla nebara gyurje simjen damje dewa Devi gyudan dembara gyurje simjen damje dunga ye gyudan dawa gyurje simjen damje dunga dewa damin dawa gyurje simjen damje nyirin chadan nidan da tanyamla nebara gyurje sachibi Chu ji men do tam re ro le ji niel de gem ban de san ge jin do me de Nanda Jela Chebarajo Idang Guru Rana Mendala Kanya Dayami
From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and by the merit created in this Christ, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and by the merit created in this Christ, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, and by the merit created in this Christ, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness in its courses. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Here is the great earth, filled with the smell of incense, covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four continents, wherein the rule of the sun and moon. In my mind, I visualize it and feel forever, and offer it to them. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world.
Kange doje nyezon wa dawa damje bambe jire tambe chini tunze be kodam te lo cha za lo 야, 다 갈수진 뭐 지와라기. 전주 liu tangpe pake semke inge payun shepe kangan judum sungdu kangla kangla semke tambar hinchende yawa ti kula chazalo kangla semke tambar hinchende yawa ti kula chazalo kangla nepa china zedrwe zewin june kula kepsuchi izade chanchu samla tangune tordu kala tape ngune 다 도자 텐디신데 버레스로와 아니 즉 말한주 상부인데 망부지를 셈나네 대나니 쪼당 풀 약쇼되다 담바힌첸스데 에 약쇼되다는 장변하는 장루 개비나 약쇼되 장주기 셈로 문제리스 디키 빈데베네 베 귤덴 카자텀텔라 차츠긴스 엔 장주 셈데 젠란 젠기 노파 제기나 델라니 페 삼노 땅초지 토니 애니 페트룬 둥 뉴몰로서 바테다 마케지네 애니 페 프랑키 거레스 애니 강라 노파치나 데스데르웨 데벤 중니 콜라 캡스지 데와 탐적인 중에 대한 장주기 셈데 수고 아레스 어때 땡기기 장주기 셈싱데 드링 아주 시야기 셈데 페 미시베타 개침부 차바레스.
And so now here we, is this sound okay to you on your side? So here today we have this text that is the topic of our discussion that has been written by the Master Shantideva, these 37 practices of Bodhisattvas. And this is primarily concerned with the mind of bodhicitta, the enlightened mind of bodhicitta. And as it is said that the enlightened mind of bodhicitta that wishes to benefit others is worthy of veneration, is worthy of prostration. Ani di sikche di siktup nipa?
Kangla nipa chana zetarwe, zewen juni kala kips cheese, zewen juni.
Devajin.
대화는 중에 대장주기 셈레스 대원 중에 대.
And the mind that wishes to engage in virtuous activity, this virtuous activity, this virtue is worthy also of prostration, of homage, of veneration. Of all of the different qualities that we have in our mind, among the myriad of qualities that our mind contains, the pure gem, this pure gem that is worthy of veneration, that is worthy of prostration, this pure gem of bodhicitta is among all the qualities the most valuable, precious jewel.
어다 땡리 인디가라 땡다와 장주기 셈데 딱 오늘 말한 맞으이나 대롱 수다 기룽진에 수지 냠니지나 개초초 자기가 있으러와 냠네 맞으나 따들라베 맞으나니 딱 가고 싶으시래 냠는잖아 땡리기 아니 즉그 기룽 대롱 수도 여인상 아니 좋아해야당 아니 땡대 펜도요래 땡디가라 전주 리우 땅부터 로기나 파현다 되게 통이나 들은 주야게 펜다용 그레스.
And primarily this first chapter of the text of Shantideva's text, The Way of the Bodhisattva, it concentrates, it focuses on the benefits, the qualities and benefits of this enlightened mind of bodhicitta. And when we engage in virtue, when we look to engage in virtuous activity, then slowly, then we become, nearer and nearer to this actual authentic engagement. But if we don't engage in practice at all, if we don't even attempt to arouse this mind and engage in practice, then it's just a little bit difficult for us to get anywhere with it. So if you read this first chapter of The Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva, looking at all of the qualities and benefits that come from the enlightened mind of bodhicitta, then one will gain enthusiasm and gain interest in actually engaging in the practice.
어다더니 내가 드린 것을 해야 돼. 장주기 셈. 땅원에 그상 윤리명아 된 거네. 로정다데 숍지 그상 침발에. 다들이 디나라 sabject 코라나 두스제디가라 냠자도 라진 제바 세타 디수도 냠자도 다디 제바 있나 또스 냠버자 자진베가라 구조베 나와요 말에 중이긴 유징이 나와요 말에 니난게 나와요 말에 중이 짱바 나와질라 냠자시거레스 베 냠버자지도 중이라 냠자 남칼타보 똥상 남칼타 보지마다 데일루이디요 말에 디디다 자진제 생데 카부체거리 텔레 람림 되게 나라 아니 자진제 바 군소 생게 아니 비 냠술라야라 윤데 맹아 되고네 냠술라제 자진제베고네 아니 조지 바데 가사 셴디 대바게 전주나라 아니 냠린 진레기 세다 자진제베고네 로종술세데 로종술 만다니요레스 디 자진 제발 파 저기나 대부용도시 대부용기.
And today we'll resume embarking on our text of the 37 practices and our study of bodhicitta. And there are two different ways of studying and entering this practice of bodhicitta, and one of them is through like the sevenfold precept system, and then the other system of training is working with training the mind in exchanging oneself and others. And so in this way, it can be difficult for us to work with this exchanging oneself and others. Ani gesiladi namka ki
단단히 냠자시디 냠자 남칼타고 똥상 관한점마다 유니티게라 취징이 나와당 유징이 나와당 가지 나와 그게요 말이스. 뒤뒤 에네 틴데 갑라 에네 자진 제신데 백하고치 그레스. 텔레 자진 냠제 코랑라 자르샤기나 디 로데도스. 냠자라 자르발레. 냠 자진 냠제 준주니 바게 준주니 수원나진진네 텔레 자르기나 닝지부 찾아레스.
And for us to attain being able to achieve the state of mind that can work with exchanging self and others, to just involve oneself in the kind of meditation where we sit in complete meditative absorption, with wide and open like the sky, in this kind of meditative absorption, where we're not actually like engaging with any objects. It's a little bit harder to train in this way through just sitting in meditative equipoise. But however, when we work with the system like in Master Shantideva's book, and also within exchanging oneself and others like we have in the 37 practices, this actually gives us something to work with. This is actually a very good system of working with training our mind in this practice of bodhicitta.
오다 라진제 세디가라 마 키란르데 자 젠레다 젠라자 렌도에 텐디까지 말해 있어봐. 삼로 땅초지 단다 버도 가랑초 랑 진진 땅도 렌데 랑 진진기 다에 가르소래. 세어 담아선 진대바레스 랑 진진이 세어. 다때 파지나 랑 진진 세어 맞지니 옌 진진기 에네베 잡도 주야지. 옌 진진기 삼로지 땅투야지. 텐데 주와이나 그와타나 랑 진진데 옌 진진 그와타까지 치거레스.
And when we talk, there is this phrase, exchanging oneself and others. So it doesn't mean, okay, so we have self and other, that we're actually swapping these out, that we're actually exchanging them in a literal sense, but what it means is that we're actually changing our mental perspective. We're changing the way we think. Generally speaking, we put ourselves first. We have the habit of self-cherishing, and we put ourselves first. And what we do one others, we make others and others more refers to changing like the way we think.
되게 돌아 벤젠로선 책인 게 라마 쳬베나 라니 진신 무바꾼기 로스를 소레스 라 진신생인데 로 무바탐 책이 자와레 무바탐체
목바
바 투르도야 무바 냠도야 냠찬도야기 다 자와지나 라 진신생들에스 만남 진진 연된 군지신스 아니 진진 제바이나 아니 오늘 연된 탐제 중 연된 탐제 계획이 인간아진 됐을 거라서 인간 던도도 기기로와 맞다니 계요 말와 진진 제나 용하랑 좀 장배 연된 자가 아래 맞이나 장배 연된 연구 말에 장배 연된 줄라 만남 진진 제과도 시고 꽤 전부 지는 소리에서
아니 라마기센
만남 제잖아 진
라마기센 디
좀파포 벤진 로잔 책인 라마 처방 그룹이자
벤상
적인.
And as it the master Pensam Churkin has said in the Alama Puja Sadhana, that the root of all degeneration, the root of all of difficulty is this very self-cherishing. However, the root of all good qualities comes from cherishing others, looking at others as our kind mothers, regarding others as our kind mothers. And if we can do this in this way, cherish others like we do our own dear mothers, then this is the source of many good qualities. And so we should see that this change of mind, this switch in thinking can really bring great benefit.
어다더니 니가라 박이나 준주나나 여러 했어. 가르잖아. 투원 지바랑 게 던지다. 투원신기 던지비 닝인기니 개발도 있어 소레스. 지바는 아주 수시교. 다 지바들라 리수미어레스 와. 지바. 로나 로젠 슬로 야치 중군이 지바자야 직지. 아니 통남 유레케다 마키고니 통남 원숨도 동영 원숨도 또다 마다고니 지바자 줄지 숨여레스. 다데 인디가라 단다디 지바랑 게 던지 당세데 통남 유레 마키바 아니베 마랑 조나진 아니베 통남 유레 메가 랑진 슈 충보연등이 대소 아니 지바차데요레스. 보다 대구 나세지 나스마도 사무당게 메인자 지바랑 게 던지다. 단다버도 토마 겨와 토마 매반 단다버도 랑던 세지진이요 버레스. 덤바 점된데 진든 버진제네 아니 베 마르로발나니 내감니 저주심 율레퉁티니 베 상기 사버도 진든 버지제네 상게 버레스. 다팅이 개버도스 수수요레스. 딘디가라 가서 이 전주는 수는데 아니 배치나 자마샤지 이는 아무 냐는 제과지레스.
And so there is a verse in the Bodhicharya Avatara, in the way of the Bodhisattva, where Shantideva points out what it means by immature beings, and he points out what does it mean to be an immature being in three different ways. In the first way, it means one of younger age, so a child, really literally childish. an immature being, someone who's really a child. Secondly, it is within the scope of somebody's mind, how open-minded they are, how broad-minded they are, how wide or narrow their scope of thinking is. And then thirdly, those who have not yet seen, have reached the path of seeing, the first bhumi. So for those who have not seen, have not reached this first path of seeing, then they engage very much like we ourselves with a kind of an ego-based attitude, always thinking me, I. We're kind of the center, we're looking at ourselves as the center from that perspective. Whereas the Buddhas, the difference between us and Buddhas is they have reached this level, and they have seen the importance of cherishing others, and therefore, like we have since beginningless time, focused on the me, the Buddhas are not doing this.
Ranjin Hyun Wokunil Tawa, Jin Chinzingi Yunden Tawa, and then Ranjin Jebas, the subject to Stamgores, and then Ranjin Hyun Tawa, the Miziva Ketchambur, Ranjin Hyun, Ranjin like Kunji Toina, Jin Chinzing Yunden Toya, Lela Yores.
And so when we study the different stages, the various texts that have been written on the stages of the path, then these all detail that we should engage in looking at the faults of self-cherishing, and that we should learn to look to the qualities in others, look at the qualities of cherishing others. And it's said that actually this first part is quite important. If we see the fault in our ego clinging, in our own self-cherishing, in our selfishness in this way first, then it will be much easier for us then to focus on putting others and their own qualities at the forefront.
간지 초 망보지니 견도 따투웨이나 아니 지금 오늘 아니 장주기 셈 세야당 송이도벨 따와싱인들라 좋아해야지 pen그레스
the 동니 도배 타와락
동이길 따와라 아니 좋아해야 pen그레스 증인도 그래 빼자 롱인지도 그래 아니 냠는 증인도 그래스.
And so, if we can see the faults in this self-cherishing, in this self-serving attitude, and we can if we can see this and focus in this way, it will also help us not only achieve this bodhicitta, this altruistic attitude that puts others first, but it will also help us to gain enthusiasm in attaining the view of emptiness. And it's not simply enough to read. So we should read about it. We should understand about these faults and qualities, and then we should also put them into practice. We should also actually include this in our Dharma practice, and in this way we will generate an enthusiastic attitude that will benefit us.
송이 도벨 따와티기 뎀버지메 덴질을 누구하래 차주기 셈디기 랑 진진을 누구하래 송이 도벨 따와티기 뎀버지메 덴질을 네 차주기 셈디기 랑 진진을 누구하래 랑 진진을 누발라 장주기 셈마도 진다 송이 도벨 타와규레키나 랑진진 랑진진 된데 거래 스로와 녀란다 좀 비규라 랑진진 요래 렌진 요 말에
The rangyal.
녀란다 좀 비규라 녀들다 rangyal 얘기 얘기 규라 아니 렌진 요 말 zembar 렌진 요 말에 랑진진 요래 랑진진 요데 가르잖아 거기 띵이 규라 장주기 셈 요 말와 띵들라 띵이가 같이 지엔베 랑 진진데 시탈레 진체 아니 렌진데 코랄 진체 차대요래
The
랑 진진데 시박
Sipagla.
시탈 진체다 제빈양데 델리 진체 아니 렌진데 코랄 진체 차대요래 코랄 트로왈라 송이 저거래 아니 제빈양데 트로왈라 아니 장주기 셈길이 기고래
So if we don't see the fault in our self-serving attitude and our own self-cherishing, then we won't be able to see the qualities in others. And when we have not yet had the view of emptiness, then this prevents us from understanding the insubstantiability of reality, of clinging to things as real. So without the understanding of emptiness, we cannot get past this clinging to things as real. And when actually we are able to generate this mind of bodhicitta, this altruistic mind that focuses on others, this is actually harmful to the self-cherishing attitude. It's actually what helps to eradicate it. It's what harms it. And so actually the hearers and the solitary realizers, they no longer have this clinging to a reality. They no longer cling to like the solid reality of things. However, they still, because they don't have bodhicitta, they still do have this self-cherishing. They do still have this self-clinging. And so it's actually this self-clinging that keeps us being born here within a cyclic existence. And the clinging to a reality, the nature of reality to things as real, is what keeps us circling around in samsara. And so when we work with this bodhicitta, this enlightened mind that considers others more highly than oneself, this is actually the way out of this vicious circle.
란진진다 젠진진기 현대 소수체과데 시부지께 전부 차대가래스 어다든지다 다 디나라 중고라라 준준나라 가래다 지된 대화 진여바 대군 현대들이 조금스 지된나 대화 간에 지여나
직텐나
대화 디 젠 대화 더발레스니 중레스 젠덴들이 조금스 지센 동al 진여바 대군 자센들이 좀 지센나 동al 가리나 나나 제 마진 대왕기 구조 같이 잡이나 대왕기 다 동al 탐책 되기제래 제 숨노도가라 따티 말한소 삼로양내양 땅과의 작거래스
아니 추적나와
라
준주가 And so we have these two again, and they are extremely important. So I'm stressing them again here, that seeing the problem with this, what is the harm in our self-cherishing? What is the fault in this? And then what are the qualities when we put others first, when we consider others more significant, more important than ourselves? This is extremely important. So I wanted you to know that. And then it is said, Master Shantideva has said in the way of the Bodhisattva, that whatever small happiness that we get within this world comes based on our putting others first, based on our considering others as more important. And whatever sufferings that we encounter have come from putting ourselves first, looking for our own happiness. And so this has been said in the way of the Bodhisattva. Kabbalah. Ani du sena pena du jigido. Du jigido. Du sena du jigido. La. La so. La so. Du jigido. And it's also been said, spoken of within the sutras. The Buddha Shakyamuni has also said that this the demon that destroys us, the demon that causes us harm, is this very self-clinging, this very self-cherishing, this thought of an I, this clinging to the thought of me, I, that is so strong. This is actually the demon that causes us harm. When we talk about a demon, we think about something that causes some kind of harmfulness. And so actually it's the root of what it is that harms us are the afflictive emotions, the three poisons, attachment, aversion, ignorance. It are these things that are invasive in us through our self-clinging that are the very root of all of our suffering, this very self-cherishing attitude.
Dungal Sidingala Aransuta, Mindo Badra. Mindo with Dungalde, Za Devalente Palchuris. Any Zob Sangi Kopang, Senzambu Sumchutani, Pechazambu Kechu, Tengi in the Masangi Kopande, Jemben Semnitore, the Chanchuki Sem, Yamnechin, Telesenitore, Sidigala, Jen Jinzingi, any pair, you and then Taya, Jen Jinzing Yamnicha, Teshungale. Teacher Razi Jingi Dungalta, Yanta Shepa, Yalsi Laling, Sidigala, Ta, Narazo Ran Chinzita, Dor, Jen Chinzindela, Kata Tutu, Enipe, Compalepchuya, Dus Chena, Yalsichimbi Tai, Yavese, Chanchu Sebi Yamlen, Chigiores, Sosu Chanchu Sem Gula Magina, Kanji Rang Lungai Chachute, Chanchu Sebi Yamlin Kuna, Sugores.
Sugiore.
Sangaranzu di Najin Chebayina. And so say Chanchu Sem Gula Makina, Chachute, Chanchu Sebi Yamlin Kuna, Sugores.
And so the verse in the 37 practices, the 11th stanza, the 11th verse speaks exactly to this point. As it says, all of our sufferings, without an exception, derive from the wish to please but ourselves, while the thoughts and the actions that benefit others conceive and give birth to supreme Buddhahood. Thus, in exchange for our selfish desires, and shameful neglect of our suffering kin. Replace thoughts of self with concern for others. The sons of the Buddhas practice this way. And in translation, all suffering comes from the wish for your own happiness. The perfect Buddhas are born from the thought to help others. Therefore, exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others. And so this points to all of the excellent qualities that come when one reaches Buddhahood, come from the thought to help others. And this stanza actually shows us exactly the way to practice. Exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. It shows us exactly what we need to do here in this last line to put into what to put into practice. And so what we need to do is we should purify this self-cherishing. We should look to purify and rid ourselves of our self-cherishing attitude, of our selfishness. And then we should purify this, pacify it, and tame our mind of this. And whereas we then need to develop and increase the attitude that considers others as most important. And so this is how we need to develop bodhicitta. We need to have bodhicitta arise in our mind. And without having first eliminated this self-clinging, this self-cherishing, and putting others first, this exchanging self for others, then bodhicitta won't arise in our mind streams.
다때오니 정주세배 갈소래 윤대명아드네 로장 다전 제보고는 로장네 아니 정주기 셈라 과가로 차용드가라 다 다둥만한조 냠는 지야데 가래여러지드가라 아니 배 행은 장주 럼도 들어왔으네 만한조 집어 수수께 올라 행한바 태용드가 렘상 공조 알갈 마리바 제당로 소바테지 깽고레스 디 미키에도 따라 아니 배 행은 장주 럼도 들어야 삼당지 당이지까지 시거레스 어다때도 배 미시바 대바침이 주인님마다 아니 개명기 빨리 죽는다 때니 니도 용어야 거라요 말에 섬로 야침부 땅 투wen지마다 니냠는 제 투야 거라요 말에 이 뺀내 점버리스
And so within the different pith instructions on the qualities and benefits of bodhicitta, among this it talks about how to work with having bodhicitta arise in one's mind stream. What is it that practitioners need to do to have bodhicitta arise in their mind stream? And so actually within these instructions, then for example, when we encounter a situation that might be difficult for us, rather than being quick to get angry or lashing out in any way, these pith instructions of the benefits of bodhicitta teach us that we should work to bring these into our very practice, or as we sometimes say, carry them onto the path. And the great masters have spoken about this, about taking these difficulties that we may encounter and carry them onto our path. And in this very verse, it talks about how we can take this onto our path, how we can take this into our practice. However, it should be pointed out that unless we have a very wide a scope of mind, are very broad-minded, it won't be easy for us to be able to actually do this. And actually, so these are very important points, and this carrying it onto the path in this way is a very essential point.
경엔 장주 남도 기로 왔을 때 현 마체지는 남도 기로야 거랑이고 말이야. 현간바 마체바 남도 기로야 말이야. 현간바 태용도가 컨트롤하고 간지 녀모 끼로 마주붙지네. 녀모 끼로 마주붙지네. 까지. 아니 디 삼로 땅 쳐지고네. 아니 개회 쳐라 파 유튜브 가지고 고고 말이야.
And so when we're training on the path, training in this way and training the mind, then there is the aspiration, there's the aspiration prayer line that reads, "Bless me that I may carry difficulties onto the path," or "Bless me that I may take my adversities onto the path." And so if we don't meet with difficulties or adverse circumstances, then we won't have anything to work with. So when we meet with these, however, and then we do have something to work with, then rather than getting angry when we meet with a difficult circumstance, then rather than getting angry, we can stop. We have an opportunity to think about it and decide how we're going to react with that. And so in this way, this is like carrying adversity onto the path.
단디는 14루고도 경은 장주 넘도 기로야 되라 쇼록 주용도 오시러와
같이
니나라 쇼록 주 주용도 다 데이드가라 발절 합다 숨신 거 그래 아니 디 뭐네 깨침버리 와서 치 경안바 망부터 그래 경안바 터지가라 더도 경안베트베 동알지라 뇽몽하게 동알지 있잖아 동알니 사샤 그래 되고 왜 거나요 말에 디 그왜 철로 유튜브에나 빼미시바 야요 디 인디가라 디 시우치 깨침부 차버리
아니 디 쇼로가 주
차거 다디니 제마타 쇼로가 니스타지 버든 거다 쭉니
아니 디 파르토 디 당포네 추 파르토 요메나 추 책보
쭉니니 다
주니
당보니 예바버도 디 우바버도 디 차거래 몬도선이 진짜 엔 주바데 주지니 장주기 셈엔 윤리맹아드니 셈케아당 자전제베고네 셈케줄디셰
라소게시라 추파네 카츠파투디 장삼 추파네
주바데 윤리맹아드니 고네 셈케줄 주지바데 자전제베고네 겜스 셈케줄 아니 다 유바제나 라마 셀링바니 윤리맹아드니 셈케줄데 라마 셀링바니 점된데네 라마 셀링바니 아티샤체네 두스젠 단다버도 진레비 많이 봐요래 아니 라젠 제바데 아니 베 점된데네 니 잠베안에 아니 야스 좀 지와라 아니 단다버도 진레비 많이 요래 디 니가 얘네 데니 냠도 레야데 리오갈덴 빅 냠린 사침 부진스 거래
알았어. 아니 that's go 탐송 온다. 나디 라마 셀링파 당 아티샤 파투 하코송. 아니 아티샤 기잖아.
유니맹아데 딩고네 셈케야데 점된데니 라마 셀링파 아티샤 두스체네 제르무체네 탄다버도 기냐미오 마레스.
알았어.
아니 다젠제 베고네 셈케야데 점된데 티니 지순 잠베야 티니 가스 좀 지와라 티니 제종가 바친 두스체네 긴 많이 마요레 아니 나랑 좀 냠는 지디가 대니가 벨마치디 냠는 지는 야보 여러지데 람림나 설부승도 오시
알았어. 아니 작션 셰파당 참된 데기
유니 야
아니 드네 잠페양 드네 제르포체
잠베양드네 같이 좀 지와라
라소
대제르무치
라소. And so Geshe-la is pointing out that actually this text is broken down into different sections, and the first verse through the 8th verse are concerned as kind of preliminary, are like Gubabartu Ogondak. So through verse 9 are like preliminary or ngundro. Some of you may have heard that, like preparatory phases. So 1 through 9 are like the preparatory phases, and then starting with 10 ani chupa yang ani jangsam, And as we had talked about before, there were two systems of training in the mind of bodhicitta, and one of them is through like the sevenfold precept system, and number 10 is based in that. And then on verse 11, then we join into this what we've been talking about today, how to exchange self with others, and this starts on 11, on the verse 11. And Geshe-la is pointing out that there are actually two lineage successions that that work on the trainings in exchanging self and others. And the I hope I have it pretty right here. So in the sevenfold precept lineage succession, then it starts with the Buddha Shakyatupa, the Buddha Shakyamuni, then moving to Lama Sirlingpa, and then Atisha, and then to Lama Tsongkhapa, and has been in this way in an undegenerated way to this day. And in the mind training in the other system, then this lineage transmission went from the Buddha Shakyamuni down to Jampeyang, down to Amitabha, Shivala, Jampeyang, Jampeyang, and then to Shantideva, and then to Rinpoche, then to Tsongkhapa. So also this was passed down. They also shared this same succession in terms of exchanging self and others. So this has moved through a lineage, a succession of great masters, I think is the point.
파 수제 대화당 개회 자와 탐제 냠답에 섬질렀다 섬쟁기 애니베 네 나자 둥알 탐제 랑길렌 엔 돈렌 미바 두스지바이나 에파 거기 나자수 렌당에다 요 말데 수수 미바제나 수수로라 시부지 펜 로게 체룬로야다 미남 체룬로야 핑겨래 손음 랍침부지 살거래스 딘디 가르자 딩이 룽라 겸버자스 랍레 간지 말아서 운종어제 두 운종어제 아니 우테 하르바제 마임바 마르바 마임바 우테 달고 제 출래 두세 렌두강라 에니베 인심이 받살도 생장 냠탑에 심징이 동알도 출렘바 에네까 라 출래 인심이 받살도 된 거래 지시 레당 요모베 징디에테 동알 여여래 이 심진 가격이 심진 담적이 동알데 랑겔렌 아니 파 우데 파 르디가라 양 잠보 제 달보제 파 르디가라 잠베 미바 살도 되네 랑기 루이 론체 게사다다네 에네 심진데라 펜송 데데와탄 덴송 냠바 제이 가웨고네 제구와레 보다티 두스제바이나 돈레 미바 오네 두스제바이나 소소 팽겨레스 딩이 룽라 겸바자스 아니 가상 곰불루두게 라게 데와치니가 티군다든 돌리 말이 곰불루두 티지야 다테 테마송 어다 두송겐데도
And as it says in our text, therefore exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others. And so we have this really great succession of great masters who have brought us this mind training, these ways of working on the path. And So this exchanging one's happiness for the suffering of others, in Tibetan, sometimes there's a practice called Tonglen, where we take on all of the illnesses, all of the suffering, all of the difficulties of others. We willingly take this on, wishing to take it from them, and in return, then we provide them with, aspire to provide them with all of the good things and happiness and so on. And actually there's no danger in us thinking that we would like to take on their illness, their difficulties, their suffering. It's not like it will actually harm our own, life or lifespan or anything. Actually, it's of great benefit to us if we can engage in that which is called Tonglen, or taking and giving, or giving and taking. And so what we do first is we sit peacefully, we sit quietly, and we work with the breath in a way that's not too forceful, so we're not breathing out too hard or in too hard, we're not forcing it, but rather naturally sitting there and breathing. And when we breathe in, then we breathe in all of the suffering, all of the torment, all of the sickness, all of the difficulty, all of the pain of all living beings, and we breathe that in, and so we think that, it would be so good if I could take away and take on the pain and suffering of all beings. And in our out breath and smoothly breathing out, we peacefully wish that all of these sentient beings, all of these other suffering beings, all beings may receive any goodness, any wealth, any happiness, any of our properties, anything that would be of benefit that will be brought, and we breathe that out to them. And so this is a practice that we can engage in. And so then Master Shantideva, there's also Master Nagarjuna has a verse that is actually an aspiration that may all of others' suffering ripen wholly upon myself. May the suffering of others ripen wholly upon myself. May all of the good and happiness I have ripen solely on others. So it goes something like this. The meaning is this. And so every single verse here is really important, right? It's really important, and we can focus just, even one day on one verse. These are incredibly important, and also for those of you who are able to read this within the Lamrim, the Namdrol stages of the path text, this is all included in it. Geshe-la says that he thinks it would be really good if you could read that, for those of you who are able to read it directly also in that text.
Lamrim karsa lojong tige ma pechajira lojong tige ma pechajira ne lojong ta geshe chakawa pechakheba chembore ina janju gi semdan tenela tudo komdishra mendene ani lojong tige be chabe radio gala kongite kande na samne ni di zambad suyena sande chaga chimbare 담바
Damba.
그 티균
Damba shendak.
균데 냠nen제하게 균데 수요나 선데 살같이 말해서 로종 지게메 배자다 균지 걸어와 티겐 균지 걸어와 티균
Trigyun.
티균잖아
Trigyun.
배자라고는 균바 유바
Oh, lasso,
Lineage.
lasso. Oh, lasso.
티 균데 잠깐 치니 아니 그것이 라리 탐바 똥살니 요 말해 좀는데 똥살해 아니 샤라완 젤레
Sharwa.
샤라와 그것이 제가 얘기한다
Oh, sharwa.
샤라완 젤디가라 아니 샤라와기 아니 너데겐 숭구아 아니 숭디갈라 너데겐 숭디갈라 아니 두세 너데겐 그것이 샤라와기 균이 숭구아 말에 자주 셈 걸라 마숭데 아니 니마지 전삼자들은 샤라와기 체카와기 샤라와 아니 샤라와 최든지를 꼬레껴 거
Lasso.
최든을 꼬레껴네
Ani sudi korgyapken di geshe.
샤라와
Sharawa.
어때 버도 유로한테 그냥
Oh, lasso.
대마다 그냥
So there's a story, and so names are always the hardest to remember. So then there was the is it a geshe chikawa?
체카와
Geshe?
그것이 체카와
Geshe chikawa.
로종 돈이만 되겠는데 그것이 체카와
Geshe ani sekangpa.
로종 지게만 되겠는데 그것이 나리 탕바리 콩 똥살에 샤라와
Lasso.
되니 샤라와 잡아 샤라와 샤라와 아니 너데겐 숭구아 너데겐 숭데 전주 셈 걸러균 숭구아 말해
Sungyo mare.
숭구아 말해 콩예 주도 전주 셈 걸러균 마스 말해
Oh.
마스데 니마지 천삼자도 갈라 그것이 샤라와 최den지라 꼬라게 거래 아니 제가 왔대 진 어디 버도 유라
Okay. So we'll see. I think we're going to learn this together as we go along. So there was the Geshe Chekawa, and he received, I think he received some kind of a text or some kind of.
head versus maintaining
He received a text and the 8 verses of mind training. And he himself was quite an expert. He was really an experienced intellectual. However, he wasn't terribly experienced in bodhicitta. He did not have a terribly lot of experience in bodhicitta. And the Tsompopo di Trungsalpare.
똥살
And so
나리 탕바
And so Nari Tsamba, who was the author of this text, had already passed on. And then one day, Geshe Chekhawa's teacher, Sharawa, he met his teacher, Geshe Sharawa, and his teacher was circumambulating the Chotenla.
저들 꼬라게
He was circumambulating a stupa.
너데겐 숭구아 너데겐 전주 셈 걸러균 숭구아 말해
Okay. And so actually his teacher Sharawa was reciting the ornament of the sutras, the text, the ornament of the sutras, as he circumambulating the stupa. However, he was not reciting the chapter or the part on bodhicitta.
되니 저들 꼬라게 되가니 그것이 체카에 뒤바래 로종 지게마다 캐네 아니 디 장주기 셈 냠렌데 냠렌 양다바 이나멘스 되니 가르쳤네스 엔 그런 너데겐 숭두가라 장주기 셈 걸러균이 숭구미도 왔었으므 디 양다바지 이나멘아스
Kirangla yerme
Mare.
kikolare di pecha.
베지나라 장주기 셈이 담바지어와 숭자껴져와 디 양다바레 베스 가지티레 디 가르쳤네스 가자레 티레스 디디가라니 가르쳤네스 소리 양다바 이민 가지티고 가르쳤네스 인케란 너데겐 숭두가라 장주기 셈데 거르디 균이 숭구미도 왔어 아니 체가웨 샤라웨 체가와라 전주기 셈 냠는적이요 말했어 빛이 디시네 가르펜도 그랬어 소리
And so then Geshe Chekawa asked to his teacher, and he said, "So within this book, then there is this part on the enlightened mind of bodhicitta. Is this an authentic point? Is there anything to this? Is this an authentic practice? And then the Geshiki Gegenki Kongla.
Gegen Jurgure, Indu Gegendere, Rishi Sharawa. Sharawa, Lam Paginto de Gana Janju, some quarter gun Masundugala, Kotopazara, Chekawa. Ani, the Janju Simki, Zamba the Yantapa in a means of the Kajiti. Karjan Kusumi to us, the
Jalan Gap, but
on the Digan Sundugala, the Janju Sempola, Yamin Jacola, there's some sumas on us. Yamin Changayam and it's Shenikar Pengris, sorry, Sharawaki. Chekavala.
And so Geshe Chekawa said, is it authentic? Is there anything to it? I see you're circumambulating the stupa, you're reciting all of the verses in the ornament of the sutras, but you're skipping this part on bodhicitta. Why are you doing that? And that's where my doubt came. That's where the doubt came from. And so then his teacher then said, "What's the benefit in bodhicitta?"
Then the Yamnichas pep missive Yantapares. Yantapaman Gumbulu, Zala Teza Ziminja, Zagamal Termishes and Gumbulu smooth was as
No.
Gumbuluti, Yamneti pay Yantapares. Yamin checking your marmata, Yamneti Yantapares, Yamneti Yantapin, but Gumbulu smooth was. Kerampe, Umar in Gentleman and Gumbulu Sungare, Gumbus do the Yimi chicken suji yomares. Mone, Lolden Yamlin checking Gina, Gumbulutugi, Jisundangor, Gumbulutugi, Zalateza Ziminji, Zagamali Timin Shosre, Chanchuki Semjong to Sebusundu, Sharawaki, Chakavala Sungri. Any Chakawa and Gumbul Umarinjan Tamake, the Tina Yotigala, any Chakavala Tepa to the any Sharawala, any Kiram, Zambat and Nanroche Labre, or Sunji the Nanroche Labre.
Okay.
What then Nani, any you lo Judu la Chanchuki Semgone, any Chakavala Chanchuki Semgomea, Omea Zamba, and Chanchuki Semgone, Chanchuki Sem Guliki at the Kanga, a Sharawi Chakavala Sharawi cutting his Mudua.
Lokatsuringa?
Lo Judu.
And so Geshe Chekawa really had doubt. He said, he thought, well, you're not reciting anything, then this bodhicitta must, not be important. But actually his teacher has said that Ani Umarinchen?
Umarinchen Tama.
Drangwa. And then his teacher then said, no, not at all. This enlightened mind of bodhicitta has been spoken about in the texts, in the scriptures, and within the Umaratna Trengwa. I'm sorry, I don't know the Sanskrit of that one. Within the precious garland of Madhyamaka, I think is the translation. Precious garland of Madhyamaka. The wise ones speak of the bodhicitta. Master Nargajuna has himself spoken of the bodhicitta. You should follow the bodhicitta. And in this, then his teacher then recited some of the verses of Nargajuna. Instantly, in Geshe Chekawa's mind, a deep faith and trust was instilled, and he then beseeched his teacher to please teach him about bodhicitta. And through that instant devotion and faith and supplicating his teacher to teach him bodhicitta, he then studied bodhicitta for 16 years.
Oh, that to say that it to money. Changi Sem was a Gundu, Kazo Tutu Changi Semla, Ani Koacha Etultane, Chick Pechatu, young lawyer, the Pemisu Ketchumbrace.
And we should, as much as we can, read these different texts, read these different pages on this enlightened mind. We should again and again read as many texts as we can and study this subject.
아니 제 상기 추조만데 저게 살숨드신데 대행님도 장주기 샘 아니 배 땡기 중에 아니 장주기 샘 몰람 추도 아니 배 장dom내야 요레시 어떻게 저 지금 오늘 땡기 돈에 도스제 아니 저거니 소소 지 젠펜 삼로 깨첨부지 삼로 땅 도스제베이나 아니 원다 얘가 나가라 양결 즉 삼로지 땅 아니 장주기 상기 추조만데 아니 양 땡기 돈에 샘기 랭 도스제베이나 뭐니 즉 칼레 아니 장주기 샘 귤이 깨알람 핑그리스
아니 디 탕포 딩아
상기 추조마
상기 추스마
상기 추도 속이 처럼
라소
딘던데 띠도네니 장주기 샘 장동 땡기 중nel레나 초그레스
라소 And so when we actually take refuge, when we recite the words in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, I go for refuge until I reach enlightenment, etc. And it's in our book, by the merit of these practices of generosity and so forth, may I attain enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings. Actually, when you are reciting this verse, you can look at this as a way of receiving the bodhicitta vows of the pledge to take on the bodhicitta, to aspire to take on bodhicitta. And so you should think you can do that when you recite again upon waking. Think about this enlightened mind of bodhicitta, wishing to gain enlightenment for the purpose of all sentient beings, as it says in the prayer. And you should think about this as much as you can and bring it to mind, recall it again and again.
오다 도스제 베미스가 아니 대기 공도 주주제네 운중을 저거에 제기나 펜도용 그레스 대대 냠도 돈레 미바르지 제투이나 뭐네 소소로 장을 팽기레스 저거 까티나 아니 니제 삼로지 땅 아니 semjen 탐제기 루말도 수레 아니 바게 잠배 삼로 땅 잠배 미바 짤도 전에 미바스디 그러다 대화단 된데 아니 랑기 루lon제데 가져야다 대사대 집어 파땅 아니 파 펜송 디송송데 이침바지 도스네 살숨 주 우부주바도 우스제기나 데마디에게요 말이스 다양 누르구두즈네 제야지요레 디 제베이나 야니주 가가레 델라 차게도 두스제거레 디가라 담거도 우스제데 디가르스 핀 가르스 ring finger 디글라 테보도 두스네 거 두스제네 엔 두스제네 두스제데 루인도 디 나로페 요가 두그나니 나르주나라요 어떻게 나라요레 수수도아 디 또고 잠바트소 미나마다지 소소에네 베 두스 제바이나 루페 사샹엘라 핑겨르토스 아니 디 여름부치게 디고르완징게로 수도 거다 두스제네 야제기는 빼 펜보야레스
And we should know that encouraging ourselves on, egging ourselves on in this way, remembering to take up this bodhicitta, this enlightened mind, that altruistic mind that wishes to engage in others' purpose. This is if we remember to be encourage ourselves to do this, it'll actually be quite beneficial. And another way to work with training our minds in bodhicitta is this taking and giving, or this tonglen that we talked about. And so again, when you are breathing in, remembering that you're taking on the difficulties and suffering of other beings, and then when you breathe out, think that may all beings be instilled with happiness. I am giving them all of my roots of virtue. I am giving them any wealth and enjoyment that I have, and breathe out with this thought. And then in terms of the physical posture, and I think you all saw, you can also sit, with if you take your thumb and your ring finger like this, and then you kind of place it in your hip crease and sit in this way when you do.
아니 뚝스 니 방거로 첨부 방 아니 두스네 첨부 방 아니 두스 디갈 랭고다 난제 랭레만 디갈 두스자 아니 디 두스 너군디네 아니 예만 두스 살숨대 아니 르디갈 디네 두스 살레 두스 살숨제 양도 제 장주기 샘섬 당 니제곰 아니 뚝스 방 아니 단 두스제 디디가 담고 두스제 아니 두스제네 디닌 살숨래 아니 두스제 살네 아니 다 방에요 말 두스제네 디 두스제 둥둥버제네 아니 우데 살숨 파 살숨 다수 살숨 lö야 돼 오케이 때제나 사장을 시우지 뱅겨서 송도 다디 다시 잡아 겨울은 뭐 저기 딜리게 손전한 것도 되게 딱이나 뱅기레스.
And so actually there's a little bit more to this physical posture. So when we do, I think everybody saw, I don't know, because we're backwards to you, so it's a little bit harder. But so Geshe-la started with his right hand first.
두스제, 아니 두스제래. 아니 두스제, 니가는 주야래 디. 니가를 라파 요마데, 니가는 이제 두스자, 아니 두스제네.
So now we're breathing in.
두스제는 숨제고보다 여름색이 되디 뒤고로만 생겨라 댄스 딜리란 땡기도 어떻게서 배 루브 싸샹야라 팽겨왔다고 미바 두모 냠는 지긴이잖아 너고 예연이 태야라 양 개발지여서 숨고도 두모 냠는 지긴이야 너고 예연이 강니 땅부 탱고야 될 개발이 열어서 숨고도 맞다 루브 야부 차 찍부지리 samtang karago te chegwae tenjegi yeyin kebar tesam yo maris sudo desote.
And so also Geshe-la had said before that so we did that first cycle which was started with our right hand, right? So then the second cycle, which would be so that first cycle is when we're taking on all of the negativity, difficulties and so on. And so that was when we were using the right hand and blocking the left first. And then when he reversed it and did it this way, this is when we are then sending out. And so you sit here and you in between and you think and you contemplate and you visualize that you are then going to offer out all positive things, happiness and wealth and enjoyments and so on, and then you do the second side. So then you do the second side, which started with the left hand and then blocking the right. So he said to contemplate and visualize and then engage in those the three on the other side. And that this is actually one of the practices that are within the 6 yogas of Naropa. And also there are great physical benefits from doing this, and even His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said that if we rely on this practice also, then it is very beneficial for us if we engage in this practice of Tonglen and using this breathing exercises along with it. As well as preparatory for Tummo practice, when we engage in this as a basis also for Tummo practice, there's a relation for Tummo practitioners as well.
다 소저 주르는데 자 브레이크
So should we have a break now?